Good evening everyone, welcome to another video. I'm Maz and today I'm in Staverton. And in today's video, I'll be trying out this Jaguar XF X260 facelift. A huge thank you to Marshall, Jaguar, Land Rover, Cheltenham and Gloucester for this opportunity. Ever since the facelift came, I always wanted to try out this car and see how much of an improvement it is. Now, I've already done a video with the X250 XF. There should be a link in the description down below. A quick overview. The Jaguar XF has been Jaguar's executive saloon since 2007, replacing the aging and very old-fashioned looking S-Type. But we'll skip the history for that right now and only talk about the X260. So the X260 replaced the X250 XF in late 2015 and has completely started from a blank sheet. For example, there's a new bespoke Jaguar Land Rover platform and some new engines known as Ingenium. So there were 2-litre diesels and 2-litre petrols, as well as 3-litre diesels and a supercharged V6 3-litre petrol. But unfortunately there was no 5-litre variant available. The highest you can go in this car was the XFS. And the trims were changed as well, so you had Prestige, R Sport, Portfolio and S. But yet again were changed on this facelift, so it's S, SE and HSE, very similar to Land Rover's system. And all three trims could have the R Dynamic appearance pack, which this one has. And of course R Dynamic replaced the R Sport. Just like the R Sport, you can choose to have a black pack, which this one has as well. So coming to the front, this is what the facelifted XF X260 looks like. For starters, it has the double J blades, similar to what you get in an XJ, X351. And if we look inside, you can see the heritage lozenge pattern, which is also seen on this intake and on this grille. Just like on the pre-facelift, the E-type style bonnet bulge coming around to the side. These 19 inches were introduced onto the facelift. I personally prefer the 20 inches. And on this facelift you get the leaper. On the pre-facelift you just had a Jaguar script. The mirrors are exactly the same. The doors are exactly the same. This is definitely not an HSE because it does not have a dimple for the keyless entry. Of course, this particular car has privacy glass. The bumper has been changed and you now get darkened tail lights. Unfortunately, there are no chicane tail lights. Instead, you just get the older style tail lights, albeit in a darker colour. Here's what the back door looks like on this X260 facelift. Much better looking than on the X250. You get leather on top, you get leather here, and you get lots of silver finishes, as seen on the speaker, this door handle, this grab handle, and even on the window switches. And this also has burnt ash wood, which was available on the pre-facelift, but I think it looks nicer on here. And of course you get nets in the back. Coming in the back, just like on the pre-facelift, you get amples of leg space, and unlike the X250, amples of headspace. And unlike the X250, you can have 2 drinks of the same size. Now coming inside is probably the best part of this facelift. In fact, I'm going straight to POV. So this is the new steering wheel, similar to the I-Pace, and these buttons light up when you turn the car on. The pedals are slightly different on this facelift. The window switches, as mentioned, finally have some upmarket touches to them. And while the vents no longer turn, I still think this style looks much nicer. There's even leather here as well as up here, and this strip of ebony wood is much nicer than the constant gloss black seen on the pre-facelift. Gone is the rotary dial. Instead you get this cricket ball style selector. It is a bit Audi-esque, but at least the stitching does add some character. Apparently they use this material because it's hard wearing. Otherwise I wish they used the same leather as seen on other parts of the car, and also have contrast stitching. But otherwise it's about the perfect size. It's the same size as my palm. The place to store your phone is much bigger. My phone literally gets buried in there. Start button is back on the center console. The volume dial is a barrel, and you sort of get a rotary dial here for the drive mode selector. Center console is pretty much similar in terms of practicality. The only difference is that this cover covers the entire area as opposed to just the cup holders. And looking at the tiniest of details, you get these on the seats and this strip of stitching, and on the HSE card you get a leaper here. These dials are part digital and part analog, but on higher spec cards you get full digital. I've already talked about the Pivi on the XE, so for that you can just watch the XE video. There's a link to that video in the description as well. Same with these dials. So that's the exterior and interior done. Now let's see what this car is like to drive. Okay, so driving the facelift X260. Interestingly, this car is so different, it feels like I'm in a completely different car. Annoyingly, this one still has the manual one and not electric. That should be about right. There we go. First of all, that indicator tick is a lot nicer sounding. This particular one is a petrol, so the engine sounds nicer than the diesel on my 2017 car. Even the indicator stalks are different and feel more upmarket. I really like how the frameless mirror, despite being about the same size as the bezel-y one, the lack of bezel makes the mirror itself look bigger than it actually is. Because it curves upwards, the contours follow the same direction as the rear view mirror. I'm currently doing 30 in Staverton, and the engine sound isn't very intrusive. The steering wheel feels a lot nicer to hold on to, thanks to the perforations on the 9 and 3 section. Paddles are a lot bigger. Those who prefer to drive 10 and 2 can just about reach the paddles. And of course this R-Sport, actually not R-Sport, R-Dynamic, has these thumb bolsters for those who prefer 10 and 2, but I prefer 9 and 3. Seriously, the interior in this car just feels a lot more special. It's a shame that Jaguar did not put this interior on the X260 from the start. I feel like if this interior was put on the 2015-2016 car, it would really shine above the competition. Even the paddles feel a lot more solid. I just recently upgraded my F-Type paddles to the metal ones and they still clatter. This particular car has the hold system, so I don't have to keep my foot on the brake to stay stationary. That was not available at all on the pre-facelift. And of course this car has the 8-speeder, so it can hold on to 1500 RPM even in this petrol car at higher speeds. Also, while we're here, let's see how the paddles respond. So let's put it into sport. So to apply sport, all you have to do is just pull back on drive and then pull back again to return to drive. While I do prefer the feel of these paddles, I feel like these paddles don't respond as quickly as the older ones. Yes, I know it's a torque converter automatic, but the previous car I think shifted a little quicker. Bearing in mind this is the same ZF 8-speed found on my F-Type. steering feels a lot lighter in this car compared to the pre-facelift. And yes, there's about a split-second delay when changing gears manually. So let's put it back into drive for the time being. Also, visibility, due to it being a facelift, it's exactly the same as the pre-facelift. I'm very thankful for that extra window on the C-pillar. Again, I'm thankful for the very smooth brake pedal. And we're off again. I also do prefer this lower section of the infotainment system. One odd thing is that in order to operate these controls, these HVAC controls, it's not a tap to operate, you have to press it in to operate. Luckily there is some haptic feedback, but when I look at it, I thought it would just operate just by tapping. So you have to sort of force it in order to operate. This particular car has the regular Mordzine headlining, and again that's the same as on the pre-facelift. Maybe the higher spec cars come with the fake suede. Coming on to the 417, sunroof is exactly the same. Of course mine did not have it, but the pre-facelift XF did have it as an option. They call it panoramic, but it's about the same size as a regular sunroof. The controls are also exactly the same. So let's put the car into dynamic, back to sport, and floor it. Maybe because this car is a petrol, which comes with less torque than the equivalent diesel, the pickup did not feel as quick, but it does feel keen at higher revs. So we'll come back to that later. Let's put it back into drive and to comfort. Yeah, much prefer the dial to operate. The pre-facelift had some buttons that you had to press, which I did not appreciate at all. Yeah, one of the benefits of the light steering is that you can quickly turn on the spot. Ideal for city driving. Not that we're in the middle of the city yet, but in terms of refinement, this car is doing better than on the pre-facelift. In dual carriageway speeds, this car is very, very effortless when driving in comfort mode. Even in this rush hour traffic, I don't feel very tired out, and I don't feel very stressed out. I still feel quite relaxed. Again, a very zero effort car to drive. Feels like they got this refinement straight out of the XJ, the later XJ with the 8-speed, that is. And let's just prove my point one more time. So I mentioned the 6-speed was quite jolty in manual mode. So here we are, gear 1, and then on off. So it is jolty-ish, but nowhere near as much as the 6-speed. So yes, the 8-speed is definitely an improvement over the 6-speed. Again, not that many Jaguar drivers would drive like that on stop-start traffic. One thing I prefer on the old car over this one is the rever hoop. This one technically has it, but it's now flush with the dash. I feel like if they were to drop the dash ever so slightly, I think that would improve the aesthetic of the interior. But that's really me nitpicking. Even resting my elbow on the top of the door is an improvement, because I remember doing this on the pre-facelift over a certain amount of time would start to ache. But here, it feels even softer. Even the armrest has a lot more padding. And that's all despite the fact this is the regular leather and not the Windsor leather that you get in the HSE cars. Windsor leather, of course, will have the leaper embossed onto the headrest. There we go, back into hold mode. Seriously, I just don't know why it took Jaguar a while to implement the hold system. Even the F-Type does not come with it. So even in stop-start city traffic, the X260 facelift is an improvement over the pre-facelift. Now here we are coming to another roundabout. And of course, let's try out the speed bumps. Again, this road is full of undulations, but they're barely coming through the cabin. Yeah, only the sharpest ones are coming through. Here's another speed bump. Here's a manhole. Barely feeling anything. Slight jolt on this one, but I took that one at an angle. But if you go through it straight like this, there's no... Here comes another one. Felt more like a hump on the road rather than a speed bump. Yeah, so the ride in this car in terms of comfort is a huge improvement. And maneuverability so far feels exactly the same as the pre-facelift. From where I'm sat, I'd say the best part of the car is not really how the car drives, but how special the car feels inside. Because I'd say that one of the weak points about the X260 is that they took away a lot of nice stuff from the old X250, such as the quality of the leather on the door tops and on top of the dash. But in this, they brought it all back. There's even leather on the center of the dash. And I also like how nice this wood feels. This is ebony veneer. Yes, you could get it on the pre-facelift, but on this, the placement of it is just much nicer. Granted, the air vents no longer rotate, but I'd say that's a very minor detail that I miss. But overall, this is a huge improvement. Some may complain about the infotainment screen sticking out, but it is slightly curved, and it still looks better than most other screens I've seen on cars. And it sort of looks like a wall-mounted flat screen TV. And of course, Pivy. If only this infotainment system was available on the F-Type. And of course you can view the camera whilst moving. So this lower spec model only has it on the rear. So there's a wide angle and a fisheye lens. So you can view these depending on what your view is like. And I say the Pivy home screen is way more intuitive than the old in-control system. In the in-control system you'll have to swipe and then wait for about 2 seconds for it to respond. Here it's very, very instantaneous. And it has some details of each menu pre-written. It's not that distracting, you can just choose which set of information you want. And here we are, Gloucester city centre. Again, just like the pre-facelift, yes, this car is about the same size as a 5 Series or an E-Class, but somehow Jaguar made this car feel a little more manoeuvrable. It does not feel too big for Gloucester, at least. Here I am passing a really big bus, and still I managed to fit. Here comes a really tight right-hander. Yep, turning the wheel feels a lot more effortless than compared to the pre-facelift. The lighter steering is probably what I appreciate the most about this update. Driving through Gloucester city centre, and I still feel like I'm in my own cocoon. The window regulator sounds a lot quieter on this one and a lot more refined. Another tight left-hander, very nice and smooth. And one thing I like about Jaguars, I mentioned this on previous videos, the markings 10, 30, 50 means your most common speed limits are mentioned. So 10 will be your multi-story speed limit, 30 is your residential, 50 is your average speed, and 70 is national speed limit. And on this lower trim model with the analog dials, 70 is smack bang on the 12 o'clock position. So city driving, it did very well. Built up area, it did very well. And stop start, it also did very well. So one last thing to check is, what's it like on the 70 zones? One thing I really appreciate is that, listen, that's genuine metal, and this is not even a top spec car. So these metal paddles are a definite improvement. To me, the pre-facelift plastic paddles just won't be fitting of a car of this type at all. Glad that Jaguar have amended that. Also, even though this is not the top spec car again, and it's got the half analog dials, I still appreciate the fact that the map can be viewed between the two dials. So you don't have to look down when lost. You can just quickly look at your dials. So here we are coming to a national speed limit, so sport, indicate right. Oh, and we're at a set of lights. Get into dynamic. It's quick, but it still feels refined when quick. It doesn't have that brutal push into the seat feeling like on the previous car. It's still definitely fun. It doesn't feel like I'm losing anything when compared to the pre-facelift. We're currently at a roundabout. Drop it down a few and floor it. Being a petrol, this car definitely sings on the higher revs. And of course, it's an 8-speeder, so doing less than 2,000 revs at 70 miles per hour. But again, if I had to be pedantic, gear shifts don't feel as quick. There we go. Floor it one more time. one thing I really liked is when I used kick down, the gears went all the way from 8 down to 4. Quite a lot of 8 speeders can get a bit hesitant when you put your foot down, but this one did not at all. And of course this car revs all the way to 6,000 being a petrol. And I just like how the sat-nav kind of looks like an early GTA game, the way you have a sort of plan view of the road. Oops, someone's joining in, so kick down one more time. So let's get this car back to the compound and finalize this video. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed watching me review this facelift X260. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you are new, ring the bell to stay up to speed, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.